Hey guys, how's it going? I'm back here with another video, and today I'll be teaching you guys how to build a personal blog using Next.js and Markdown. Now, you might be wondering, why not just use something like WordPress or, I don't know, any other blog generating tool out there? Well, I personally recommend Next.js for a couple reasons. First of all, if you want to have a lot more control over your own website, not using something like WordPress can be very helpful. And out of all the other alternatives, Next.js offers some really great benefits. For example, blog content is very dependent on high-speed page loads and also on SEO. And with Next.js, and since Next.js pre-renders pages at build time, this allows it to be the perfect contender for doing something like this. Not to mention that Next.js is really good at handling stuff like images, assets, code splitting, anything that could actually be important to achieve that high speed and good SEO that you might need in a blog. So in my opinion, it's a great thing to learn, and it makes it really easy by using the Markdown library, which I'm going to show you guys in this video, which allows us to basically write all of our blog posts using Markdown language and then automatically convert all of those into HTML. So it's a pretty cool project. If you're interested in just checking the code, feel free to just go into the description. I'll put a nicely written tutorial over there as well, together with the entire code. Before we get into the video, if you could leave a like and subscribe, I would massively appreciate it. It would help push my videos to more people, and I would be eternally grateful if you could do so. So with that in mind, let's get into the video. Okay, everyone, so let's get started. As you can see, I already have over here my VS Code opened, and it's opened on a folder called Next.js Blog. I recommend you doing so as well. We're going to actually start by just building the Next.js files by using the Next.js CLI command. So let's just run npx create next app and then give it a name of Next.js blog tutorial. I'm gonna press enter and we're gonna get a couple questions. So do I want to use TypeScript? Normally I do recommend always using TypeScript. However, this is not gonna, I made this project with TypeScript and I noticed that it doesn't really benefit that much from it, especially because most of the work is going to be done after by writing the articles. So to be honest, I'm going to put no, ESLint yes, tailwind no, source directory sure, app router sure, no, and then it's actually going to start installing everything inside of this folder over here. So what we want to do when this is done is actually change our directory over here inside of that one. So next JS and then blog tutorial. So now that we're inside of here, I want to run the following commands. I want to install the libraries necessary to convert all of the Markdown files that we're going to be writing into actual HTML that we can put inside of our website. So how we're going to do this is installing the packages Markdown it and Gray Matter. They're pretty recognizable packages. So I wouldn't worry that much about them. But now all we want to do is just run npm run dev. As you can see, this is going to create a localhost environment for our computer. And I'm going to copy that and then just put it over here. As you can see, open it up on a different browser. Now we want to change a bit the folder structure that exists in our project, because although we are going to follow all of the Next.js common practices, we are going to have to go a little bit beyond due to the fact that we're doing a website that is a little bit different. So outside of the app folder, but inside of the source folder, I want to create a file, or a folder actually, called lib, just like this. Now this is going to have a file called posts.js, and this is where all of our gray matter code is going to go inside of. Basically what we want to have is a folder right next to lib, but also outside of the app folder, called posts. And what we want to do is every time we want to write a new article, all we're going to do is, for example, come over here and create a file for that article. I'm just going to call it sample article, and then make it a Markdown file. And inside of this post.js, inside of lib, we're going to get all of those and then insert it inside of our Next.js project. So this is basically why they are outside, because they're not part of the Next.js project. They are integrated with it, but I want to separate it in a way that makes sense. Then inside of our app folder, we can start working a little bit with our page.js, which is the main, obviously the main entry point of our website. So what I want to do actually here is I want to delete everything. So I'm going to delete absolutely everything from here. I'm even going to delete all of this, and we're going to start at a clean slate. So the first thing I want to do is I want to separate this with a div, then add an h2 tag to, I don't know, give a title to our website. So I'm going to call it blog, PedroTech blog, something like this. And then we want to have a list, an unordered list of links to different articles. I'm not going to style this list, this part. I am going to style the article in itself, so you can see that it actually looks like an article. But this part, I'm not going to. This is more for the functionality of it. We want to be able to, every time we create a new Markdown file over here for another article, this will include the link to that article in the code automatically without us having to manually come here and add the link for that article. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to need to come over here to our posts.js in our lib folder, and we need to write some logic that will download or fetch all of the Markdown files that are in this folder and then return it in a way that our Next.js code will be able to use it and understand it. So it might sound a bit complicated, but it really isn't. What we're going to do is the following. I'm going to actually come over here. I'm going to import a couple stuff. I'm going to import fs from fs, then import path from path, and then import matter from that gray matter library that I mentioned. Now we want to create a connection to the directory where all of our posts are, right? So how are we going to do that? Well, I'm going to create over here a variable called posts directory and set it equal to path.join process.cwd, and then put the name of the directory called posts. Now this will basically just give us the exact directory in which our posts folder is in a string form so that we can later use. So then over here, I'm going to actually create a function that we're going to use in other parts of our project. This function is called get all posts. And it's pretty cool. We're going to first need to get all of the file names inside of the post directory by using the fs, which is the file system library. So I'm going to create over here const file names is equal to fs dot read dir sync, and then we're going to put the path to the directory that we want to read all of the file names, which is the posts directory. So we'll just put that over here. Now that we have the file names, what do we want to do? Well, by the name of the function, we're going to be returning all of the posts that are in that folder. Now, we don't want to just return the actual file. We're going to analyze the file and return it in an object that actually translates data that we can use in Next.js. So how I'm going to do this is I want to return over here the file names array dot map, and we're going to loop through each file name, and we're going to get the individual file name and use that data to generate a new object over here at the bottom that is going to actually represent each of the posts. Now, let's think about what kind of data we want inside of that object, right? We want data that is going to be able to be useful for then injecting this Markdown into our HTML. So the first thing you can think of is the content or the data of the Markdown, right? The information that is on the article. And we'll get that there in a second. But the second thing I think it's important from this article is a route that we're going to be then using inside of our routing system to access that article. So for example, in this simple article.markdown, right? If I want to access it, I don't want to have to go to simple article.md, right? I don't want to do this. What I actually would prefer is to go to localhost 3000 or the name of the website /simple article, and then it would actually demonstrate the specific article over here. So how we're going to do this is we're going to, first of all, have to remove the MD part of the article's name, and we have it right here in the file name. So I'm going to say const slug is equal to file name dot replace. Then we're going to have to write a little bit of regex over here so that we can actually find the .md part of the string. So it would be something like this .md, something like this. And we want to replace where all the instances of .md in the string with an empty string, meaning we're removing that. If you're not familiar with regex, doesn't really matter. All we're doing here is removing the .md from the file name. And by the way, slug, if you don't know what that term means, slug basically it's from what I understand, it means it's like a human-friendly way of you describing a string, right? So in our case, it would be more human to call this file sample article instead of sample article.md. Then we want to get the file path to that specific file. So we're going to create a variable called file path over here and set it equal to path.join the posts directory and the file name. Then we want to use the file system library to actually get the contents of that specific file. So I'm going to say const file contents is equal to fs.read file sync, and then file path over here, and choose the UTF-8. Wait, UTF. Let me just redo this again. UTF-8. Perfect. Actually, I can just remove this actually. Yeah, perfect. Now we get to where it matters, which is using the matter library. So I'm actually gonna come over here and use the matter library to transform the file contents of this file that we just read into actual usable data. So that's the point of using file matter. Basically, as you can see over here, this matter function takes a string or object with a content property, which is in our case what we have because we got the file contents, and it will parse information that we can later use to inject inside of our HTML. So we're going to put over here the file contents array, and we're going to destructure out the content and the data of this article. And part of what we want to return is exactly that. We want to return the content that we just got from the matter function, and also all of the data. And I'm destructuring it like this because this data is an actual object, so we just want to destructure all the fields inside of it. So perfect. This posts function is done. So in our page.js, we can finally access that function. So in here, I'm going to say const posts is equal to get all posts, the function we just created from the lib folder, and like this. Then I want to actually create the routes, right? The kind of like a nav bar. I want to loop through the posts. So posts.map, and specifically in the main post, I want to return back a list item, which is going to include two things. It's going to include a link from Next.js. So a link that is going to include the post title. I know that there's going to be a title because I know how we're not using TypeScript here, so you're not actually seeing types, but that's part of the data that is going to come back from that object. Now in the link href, I want to put the slug. So I'm going to do slash, then probably posts, right? To separate everything perfectly, slash, and then we're going to put the slug. So post.slug. Then just for showcasing reasons, we can actually get the date of the article as well if you're trying to demonstrate that. We can grab a paragraph tag over here and then do post.date, just like this. And you should see that right now, if everything works, which it doesn't, let me actually just see what's happening here. I figured out what it was. We actually just have to do source over here to actually access. Forgot we had the source folder over here. And now it should be working. It's obviously not showing over here the link yet because we don't have a title or a date. defined in the article. And as a matter of fact, we don't have anything in that article, right? This is an empty Markdown file. But I wrote, or I honestly asked ChatGPT to just write this beautiful article over here for you about the rise of JavaScript frameworks and modern web development. But it should encapsulate what a Markdown article is, right? It's a bunch of Markdown language that actually makes it a lot easier to write articles. And since we defined the title, the date, and the author over here at the top, it should now get that information and use it to create this link over here for the article with the date and with the actual link. And when I click on it, it should redirect me to the slug route, right? So everything seems to be working, except we're not actually converting this content that we're getting from the file into actual HTML yet. Now, to do that, we have to define the actual route of that the articles are going to be hosted at, right? So if you're familiar with Next.js, you should know that to create a new route or define a new route, all you have to do is create a new folder over here, inside of our app directory, which will give the name of the route. So since we're doing posts / the name of the article, we have to create a folder called posts over here. Then we have to recognize that the route is like posts / the slug, right? The name of the file that we created. And that can be dynamically changed. So inside of this posts folder, we have to create a slug folder with the brackets around. I know it's a bit confusing. If you're not that familiar with Next.js, feel free to watch my tutorial on it. I'll release more tutorials on it as well. But basically, this is basically saying that we're going to create a route that is posts for the first folder / whatever is inside of the brackets over here, which is going to be the slug. And then to actually handle whatever goes inside of that route, we're going to create a page.js inside of our slug folder. So in here is where most of the magic happens. So I'm going to export const post is equal to async. And then I'm going to create the function. And then we're going to return a component, which is asynchronous. And we're going to have to destructure the params because this is, again, a dynamic route, which the params will have the slug in it, right? The name of the article. Now over here, we're going to return some JSX. So let's use the article property over here. Then we're going to add an h1 tag for the article's title. And to do that, we're going to actually need the article title. Right now, let me just call it whatever. So you guys see that the route definition should be running. Default export is not a React component and page post slug. Maybe I think actually if I replace it with this, it should work. It's just the definition of the component. It should work, as you can see. So when we go to sample article, we do render the route, but right now it's not dynamic at all. What we want to do is use that params thing over here to grab the slug and fetch the specific post that correlates to that slug. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to create a fetch posts function over here. It's going to be an async function called fetch posts, and it takes in the slug that we're going to pass in, and we're going to just grab all of the posts from the get all posts function, and then we're literally just going to return the specific post that correlates to that slug by doing posts.find post, and then getting the one that has the slug equal to the actual slug that we have over here. Now I can come over here and grab the post by doing const post equals to await fetch post. Then saving this, we do have to pass the params here, so I'm going to pass params dot/slug. Let's just do some minor error handling here. So if not post, then return a not found from next. And then when we get that post, we do want to finally do the Markdown conversion, where we convert the Markdown file or the Markdown information that we're getting into actual HTML. So I'm gonna create a variable called HTML converter and set it equal to MD, which I have to import by coming here and saying import markdown it from markdown it, and then instantiating constant d equal to new markdown it, just like that, and then saying md dot render post dot content, so we can actually get the content. And this is pretty much it. Now let's actually just display that information. So for the title, for example, I'm just gonna do post dot title. Then we're gonna do the same, but for the date. But let me replace this with a p tag and say post.date. And then we actually put the article in itself, right? And we do that by adding a self-closing div that we're going to inject a dangerously set inner HTML, and we're going to replace the HTML with the HTML converter. Nice, that's pretty good, and I already saw it did work. We put all of the information from the article here, and it is working, but it doesn't really look like an article, right? Well, I did write some CSS that I don't want to show in this video because, as many of you might know, I don't really show CSS because I think it just takes too much time from the video. So I'm gonna copy and paste some CSS so you can have an idea of how this can look like. And it's not a lot of CSS, which, by the way, you can get by just going to the description and getting the code from the GitHub repository. But I'll be back in a second when I put all the CSS inside of this project. And okay, everyone, so as you can see, I just put the CSS and it already looks a lot better. It actually looks like an article, right? I put like 3 minutes into the CSS to make it look like this. So don't expect too much, but as you can see, this is pretty simple. Now, all I have to do to create more articles is just create more markdown files inside of my posts folder. The CSS, if you're interested in looking at it, all I did was I just added 2 class names, one for the HTML div and one for the date. Then this is all of my CSS. A lot of it is just generated already, so don't worry about it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like down below and comment what you want to see next. I'm recently back on YouTube, and this is probably going to be one of my first videos, so I'm really excited to be back and posting content that I actually find really valuable. So I hope that this is one of those videos. I hope that if you wanted to do something like this, you can use this later on to maybe start a blog that you manage. I don't know. I just hope that this was valuable. But yeah, that's basically it. Really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to check out the code, the link will be in the description. And I see you guys next time.